So, hi everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending in which part of the world you currently are. Welcome to a new Stars of Data conference from my side also. And I hope you enjoy the session so far and that you heard many interesting stuff and maybe learned something new. I would also like to welcome you to my session, Magnificent 7 Simple Tricks to Boost Your Power BI Development. Hope that you will enjoy. Okay, before we start, let me just briefly introduce myself. My name is Nikola Ilic. I'm originally from Belgrade, Serbia, but since last 4 years, I live in a wonderful city of Salzburg in Austria. And that's the reason why I've chosen my nickname, Data Mozart, as Salzburg is widely known as the birthplace of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. So yeah, I was brave enough to use his last name as part of my nickname. That's why my motto is make music from your data. I'm regularly blogging at data-mozart.com, and I'm also pretty active on LinkedIn and Twitter, so feel free to ping me or connect if you like. A few more sentences about me. I have multiple year experience working with data products, predominantly with Microsoft Data Platform. Started with SQL Server, then brushed myself with analysis services, multidimensional, SQL Server reporting services, integration services, and most recently, if you consider last 3 years as recent, with Power BI, which I'm a big fan of. Privately, I'm a father of 2 kids and a true football and Barca fan, as you can see from this picture. I'm working as a BI developer at ITSP Services in Salzburg. Okay, so this is important, and I would like to express my gratitude to certain people who deserve credits for making this happen. First, big thanks to Ben and William for putting their effort in organizing this event and giving us an opportunity to kick off our speaking career. Also, big gratitude to volunteers who dedicated their time to share their extensive knowledge and help us cultivate our sessions. I think this is really awesome lineup of globally recognized experts, and we really consider their suggestions and assistance as a pure gold. Really much appreciated. Then I can't forget sponsors. I know that this is a free event, but as you all know, there is no free lunch, and in the end, someone needs to cover at least basic expenses. Therefore, thanks to kind people from Redgate who supported the event. And last but not least, special thanks goes to my mentor, Wolfgang Strasser. First of all, he is a really great guy, positive, supported. He always had patience to answer all of my questions, gave me really precious advices based on his experience, and finally, he's with me here today, so I feel at least a little bit more comfortable knowing that he's protecting my back. Big thanks again to you, Wolfgang. Well, prerequisites, this is a 100 level session, which means introductory level. Honestly, I would say that it's a 150 session, since some basic knowledge and experience with Power BI can come in handy, but by no means you're in trouble if you've never used Power BI before. Most of the topics relate to visualization techniques, so walking through the session with no programming background is completely fine. As I said, no Power BI experience is needed, but it will obviously help. And the most important thing for those who are asking themselves if they can sneak through the session without understanding any DAX, yes, of course. So don't leave the session because of lack of DAX knowledge. So yeah, there will be some DAX involved in few examples, but it will be on a really basic level, so everyone can understand what we are doing. In any case, if someone doesn't understand, feel free to ask a question and I will try to answer the best I can. And one last thing before we dive into the real fun with Power BI, I would like to know what kind of audience is with us today here for the session. So I would kindly ask you to take part in the poll by answering to a following question. What is your Power BI level of expertise? A link to a poll is in the chat window, so please, if you have a few seconds, just it will help for calibrating the session further. Okay, while we are waiting for results, let's take a sneak peek at agenda, 7 topics, 7 demos, dynamic filtering. Then we will see how to display totals in a stacked column visual. Then I will walk you through creation of tooltip pages, which is a powerful tool for enhancing your reports, plus as a bonus tip, animated tooltip. Then we will see how to turn plain old matrix visual to a custom-like visual. Then we will build the slicer pane with using bookmarks from the scratch. Then we will use drill-through actions for instructing our buttons to dynamically switch between pages. And in the end, we will see how to turn static card visuals to dynamic ones, again, using bookmarks. Okay, so let me see if the responses are there. Thanks for your responses. Oh, we have 6 super duper Power BI users. Oh, that's nice. Please leave your contact. I will probably have some questions for you. Okay. I see that most of the audience is familiar with Power BI. That's nice. That's nice to hear. Okay, so I think we are ready to go. Yeah, first topic is dynamic filtering in Power BI. The problem we are trying to solve here is that we want to give our users possibility to dynamically choose what they want to see in the report. Or to be more specific, they should be able to switch between different measures on the same visual in most effective way. The first solution that came to my mind while working on this was to play around with the buttons in bookmarks. But then I thought, what if in the future my users wish to expand on this and include some additional measures? I mean, it's easy when you need to provide selection between two, but things quickly become more complex if you opt to use bookmarks and need to increase the number of possible outcomes. So therefore, even if I love bookmarks, I discarded them as a solution. Here, since I thought it would create a real headache when it comes to maintenance. So now I will show you much more flexible solution, which we created pretty quick. And what's most important, can be also quickly upgraded to support additional similar requests. So we are getting flexibility and scalability in one solution, and who doesn't want that? Okay, enough talking. Let's head over to a Power BI desktop. It's showtime. Okay, I already prepared some basic stuff here, as you can see, and I also created few simple measures that we'll need for this demo. I know that we all like things that are automatically created for us, and Power BI is pretty good in it, but without going any deeper, I would just say that you should avoid using implicit measures whenever possible and create explicit measures instead. So here are our measures. I think you can see properly. If not, just let me know and I will zoom it a little bit. So I have sales amount measure, which is just simple sum over sales amount column. A sales amount year to date, which uses calculate function over this created measure sales amount and built-in DEX function dates year to date to calculate running total for the selected period. So I will just drag those measures in the table just to check if everything works fine. Okay, here, so we have sales amount broken down by month. And here we have sales amount year to date, which shows me running totals, or better say, aggregating all previous values. So what's the idea here? Not to show both measures at the same time, but we want to give our users choice option to choose which one of these two they want to see. Okay, I will remove them now. So first thing that we need to do is go to enter data. We will create a new table, and I will call it calculation time frame. I will need two columns, ID and period. ID I'm using, it's not necessary, I'm just using it in case that you want to order your data other than alphabetically. So ID 1 will be monthly and ID 2 will be year to date. Okay, I will load this now in my data model. Okay, now I need to capture somehow user selection. What does he want to see? So within this newly created table, let's create a new measure. I will call it selected time frame, and it equals minimum of calculation time frame ID. Okay, I will explain everything. So this measure will return minimum ID value of the user selection. In case that no value is selected, the measure will return ID1 by default, which is monthly in our case. And now stick with me, here's where the real magic happens. So far we have captured user selection, but it's still somehow disconnected from our existing data model. So let's see how we can put the user selection into the context of our whole data model. I'm going to a fact table and creating a new measure. Let's call it sales amount selected. I will use switch function, okay? And I want to return selected time frame, the measure which we created previously. And I'll say, if it's number 1, return me sales amount. If it's number 2, return me sales amount year to date. Okay, just for the sake of proper naming, in front of measures, we don't use table prefixes. Okay, I will now create this measure. And let me stop here for a second and explain what is so special about this measure. So basically, it takes ID value from user selection and based on that value, display respective calculation with help of the switch function. In simple words, if user chooses ID1, which is monthly, then I want you to return me sales amount value. If he chooses number 2, which is year to date, then return me sales amount year to date. And the final touch here is to create a slicer, which will enable our users to select what they want to see. So here is the slicer. I will put period on it, and let's format it a little bit to look nicer. Make it horizontal. Okay. I'll drag it here. And now I will put this sales amount selected, our new measure, here in the table. As you can see, by default, we have monthly values displayed here. But as soon as you click on this year to date, you see that it changed to display mere running totals. Again, when you click on monthly, it goes back to show on a monthly level. So this was just a basic example of using this technique, but you can virtually implement it in multiple different scenarios and expand it according to your needs. Okay, let's go back to a presentation. Next topic is displaying totals in a stacked column chart visual. Well, the main problem here is that by default, there is no possibility to display totals in a stacked column chart visual. And since the stacked column chart is one of the most common used visuals in Power BI, and it really has many, many use cases, we used to apply various workarounds in the past to somehow achieve what should be a normal outcome, in my opinion. So yeah, we used to create two visuals overlaying one another and playing with transparency settings in order to make them work as a totals on the top of the stack column chart. And yeah, I must admit that it was quite awkward and painful for development. But huge things sometimes happen by an accident, and that's exactly what happened to me here. So I was working on Power BI report and simply needed to use stacked column chart visual to properly articulate some numbers to my users. And yeah, you can imagine I was mentally preparing for another round of painful development. But then all of a sudden, solution came literally out of nowhere. So I've already had on report canvas a simple line visual, which had data labels turned on. So that is quite important, that part with data labels. You will find out why. So while looking at this report, I started to click up and down on the stroke width property within shapes under formatting pane. And I clicked all the way down to 0. So yeah, I was confused. I thought that this value must be greater than 0, but it appeared that I was wrong. And luckily I was wrong. So what happened, the line just disappeared and the data labels values were still there. So that gave me basically an idea to try something with this bug or a feature, call it whatever you want, to solve my original problem. So enough talk, let's switch over to Power BI Desktop and see how this works in reality. Okay, here I already created a nice stack column chart, as you see, which displays sales amount per month and broken down by brand class. Here you see deluxe, economy, and regular. Okay, so as you can notice, I'm missing totals per month to get the full picture. Okay, first thing I need to do, I will switch to line and stacked column chart, so nothing changes. I will drag this sales amount measure. Let me just zoom it a little bit. So sales amount measure goes to line values. So basically we use sales amount measure twice, once in column values and once in line values. And just for the sake of clarity, I will name it total. As you see now, I have my line here and I have total values per month. Okay, going to a formatting pane, that's the thing I mentioned. So go to shapes and this stroke width property. Just click 0 and line disappeared. That's awesome, really. And then we need to format it a little bit more. So going to data labels, then this customize series option. Let me zoom it a little bit. And I want to customize my total. That's important because I want to position them above. Basically, that will secure that in any case, whatever the size of my data bars is, my total values will be above the data bars. So yeah, we can format it a little bit more if needed, but I think, yeah, you can play around and format it to look more nicer. But yeah, the key takeover here is that we were able in literally 1 minute with a few clicks to get the full functionality, which previously required, believe me, few hours to make it work properly. Okay, so yeah, as I often like to say, Power BI is full of hidden gems, and sometimes you find them after long research, and sometimes they appear simply by an accident, like in this case. And one message for people from Microsoft, because I know they are listening now, please don't remove this bug or feature. We like it and we want to use it in the future also. Okay, so going back to presentation, number 3 already. I would like to show you now some neat techniques on how you can enhance your reports using tooltip pages. Well, first of all, I have to say that I really consider Power BI as an awesome tool because it gives you that kind of flexibility to tell the data story in multiple different ways. So it's just about your creativity, and with little tweaking here and there, you can give your users much better insight into the underlying data. And they will appreciate that, I assure you. So tooltips are quite useful feature in the Power BI report. By default, when you hover over a visual, let's say a data bar, like in this example, which you can see in the presentation, you will see numbers for that specific portion of data. But what happens when default is not good enough, or when we want to give our users better insights into underlying data with just hovering over data bars? So enough talk, let's switch over to a Power BI desktop. Again, it's showtime. I've already prepared our two tooltip pages in advance, so we don't waste time building everything from scratch, but I will walk you through all the necessary steps for building tooltip page, I promise. So first step is to create a new report page by clicking on this plus sign. And we need to set up a few things here. So first, page size, instead of, let's zoom it a little bit, instead of this default 16:9, I will choose tooltip page size. And thing I prefer to do is going to View tab, under Page View, choose Actual Size. Why I'm doing this? Because it will help me to build visualizations in proportions to real size of the tooltip page. And I will also make this page hidden so that my users will not see it when they open the report. And one last step here is to instruct Power BI that we will use this page as a tooltip page. So under Page Information, I will toggle tooltip on. So Power BI now knows that we want to use this page as a tooltip page. Okay, now let's, I already created two tooltip pages. I will show you now. The first one is, consists of two visuals, one card visual which shows total sales quantity, and the stack column chart visual, or cluster column chart visual, which shows top 5 regions by sales amount in descending order. And the other one is tooltip, which shows sales amount broken down by colors within specific brand. Okay, now let's go to Let me just check for this. Okay, I need to turn on. So I will turn it on, and that way Power BI will know that we want to use these two pages as a tooltip pages. Now let's go back to our main report page. Okay, so now when I hover over this table, sorry. Okay. Sorry about that. We'll come back later. So when I hover over, by default, I will see default tooltips showing me the values from the table. But if I want to use a tooltip page instead of the default tooltip, I'm going to this tooltip property, turn on, and instead of default, I will choose report page. And then choose the page I want to show here instead of the default tooltip. In my case, I want to show tooltip regions page. So now when I hover over, let's say April, I will see my numbers broken down for April. Then if I go to, I don't know, October, the numbers are different. September, so you get the point. And let's do the similar thing for the sales amount by brand name. Just let me check. So yeah, I will show you from scratch. So when I hover over now, I have default tooltip, which shows me total sales amount for this brand Prosware. As soon as I switch to report page and choose my tooltip colors, now when I hover over this Prosware, I will see numbers broken down by color within that specific brand. Let's hover over Contoso and check. Yeah, works fine. The reason why I created the second one, these tooltip colors, is that it's not a regular tooltip page. I mean, here under page size, you can also choose custom size, and you can put whatever values you want for width and height. So you can additionally customize your tooltip page. You don't have to use predefined values for tooltip page size. Okay, so you saw this, and now stick with me. I will give you one bonus tip, and it's really level pro. So first of all, credits go to Jason Cockington from acceleratorbi.com. Jason explains this trick in details, but I was so impressed that I wanted to show you here today and include in this presentation. So basically, what's the challenge? A lot of our report users are often unaware of some capabilities within Power BI and need some kind of guidance in order to use the report in its full capacity. So previously, I was using this trick to instruct my users how to use drill through feature within Power BI. But since we recently got specific button action for drill through, this trick can be adjusted to assist in some other scenarios. So let's say I want to instruct my user how to use analyze feature of the visual. By default, this visual is not visible to users, so they need to right-click on the visual like this. I will zoom it a little bit. So you see here, analyze feature. Okay, and yeah, then they can click further to explain the increase or decrease depending on the values in the visual itself. So it's not so intuitive for users to know how to use this feature, and because of that, I created a GIF containing all necessary steps to perform analyze on the visual. There are a lot of free GIF creators on the web. Personally, I'm using ezgif.com. And of course, my GIF was already created before this session. So I will just walk you through the steps for creating an animated tooltip page using your GIF. Basically, all steps remain the same as in the previous part of this demo. The only difference is that I will show you now. So page background, I will add image. So this is my analyze GIF. The most important thing is to set transparency to 0 and image fit to fill. Okay, so you see now, yeah, basic, small, nice animation which shows my user how to use analyze feature. Tooltip is on. So going back to my main report page, and now here you see this small question mark. Let me zoom it a little bit. So by default, it will show you just default tooltip. But let's, oops, sorry. Let's change this, and under visual header tooltip, I want to show my page 1. As name is not fine, but let's use it now for this demo. And now when I hover over this question mark, so my user now gets whole instruction visualized on how to use analyze feature. So they don't need to call you and ask, hey, how can I access analyze feature? It's enough to hover over this question mark and they get complete instruction. Okay, so before we conclude this topic, I will go back one slide since this is important, and I wanted to emphasize once more, don't get crazy with creating too many tooltip pages, since it can affect your overall report performance and it will increase your data model. As I often like to say, try to find the right balance between giving your users enhanced experience and additional overhead, which can be caused by overusing some of the non-standard techniques. Okay, before we proceed further, any questions so far? Is everything clear?
Yeah, we've got a couple of questions, but mostly a lot of people saying that they're really enjoying everything so far.
Thank you guys, appreciate it. Thank you. So, I enjoy it too.
The first question was from Martin, and this one goes back to the first demo. He was wanting to know what is the difference between implicit and explicit measure.
Yeah, in shortly, by default, Power BI will create for you explicit measures using default summarizations. So for example, let me go back to this example. So here you see that by default, I have this, let me zoom it a little bit, this small sign as sum. So Power BI will automatically summarize this column for me. And that's completely legitimate. That's completely fine, but that will not be reusable. And it's better to create explicit measure like we did, so you can refer to this measure in other measures. And yeah, it's kind of best practice to create an explicit measure whenever possible. So that's the difference, basically. You can use also these implicit measures, but explicit measures, I would say it's a best practice.
Great. So then the other question was from Inta. Can you please repeat the address for the icons from that last demo?
Forgive? Animated tooltip?
Yeah.
Sure. It's, let me write in chat for a short. It's ezgif.com. ezgif.com.
Okay, great.
But you can use whatever. There are a lot of free GIF creators on web, really.
Okay. So we've got another question from Sam, but it doesn't really apply to the demos we've seen so far. So Sam, I'm going to save that one for the end, if that's okay.
Yes, please. Because I'm afraid that we don't have enough time if we go deeper into questions.
Okay, great. So let's keep on with the next one.
Okay, great. Okay. So the next one is, I want to show you how to turn plain metrics to a custom-like visual. This trick is so simple but yet powerful that I thought it's well worth to include it in this presentation. And first of all, I have to admit that Power BI has extremely large collection of visuals, both built-in and especially custom visuals from AppSource Marketplace. And one of the built-in visuals that is frequently used is plain old matrix. And those of us who are old enough and used to work with SQL Server reporting services, we have fond memories of matrix. It was a key pillar of our reports. And matrix as a visual was underrated in Power BI for a long time, and even well-known expand collapse functionality was enabled just less than a year ago, I think somewhere in the end of 2019. One question, do you recognize this illustration on the right? So this one. Yeah, for those of you who are not familiar, it's from Google Analytics dashboard. It's quite simple, but at the same time powerful. It gives you a quick insight in most relevant trends, so you can spot the key metrics in literally 2 seconds. However, believe it or not, Power BI doesn't offer out-of-the-box visual that would bring you same experience. So now I will show you how you can transform plain old matrix visual to something like a heat map visual, or yeah, even more customized, so it should mimic the look and feel of this Google Analytics visual. And as I like to say when I'm demoing this trick, after we are done, you can freely say that you created your own custom visual. So enough talk, it's showtime again. Let's head over to Power BI Desktop. Okay, so let's say that our business request is to show total sales amount per month for every single brand. That's a pretty common business scenario, I would say. So here I have matrix visual on my report canvas. I have sales amount. I have months as a columns, and I have brands as a rows. As you can notice, there are a lot of numbers, but it's really hard to spot the trends and patterns without spending some time to going into more deeper analysis. Okay, so let's go to work. I will go to conditional formatting of my matrix. And under background color, I will toggle on this option. And you see that Power BI automatically applied some gradient coloring for me, but I want to customize it more to make it more look like other parts of my report. So going here to advanced controls, and here you can define your own gradient. So let's go from this light blue to this dark blue. Okay, so background color of the cells changed, but still we see numbers there. So the next thing we are going to do for font color, applying exactly the same. So going from this light blue to this dark, I think I chose this one. Yeah, okay, so that's it. Basically in few clicks, we created a heat map like visual, and without any need to further format it. And that's really cool. So this way we enabled our users to spot that, for example, Contoso and Fabricam sales rocks between May and July, and that worst month of Contoso is better than the best month of any other brand except Fabricam. And the most important thing, we can easily spot these trends in 2 seconds without getting deeper into numbers. Of course, numbers are still there, and if you want to check some specific figure, tooltip will work as a charm. As you see, if I hover over here, I can see that sales amount for Contoso in June was 17,700,000 something. Okay, so before we conclude this topic, in all fairness, I need to say, don't blindly use this trick for every matrix in your report, since there will still be many, many more scenarios where you want to stick with traditional way of displaying data. However, you will definitely face some situations when this technique can be beneficial. And if you ask me, when would I use this trick in wide matrices with a lot of numbers like this one I just show you in this demo. And applying this trick in those situations would definitely enrich your user's experience. Okay, going back to presentation. So far, so good, I hope. Next thing I would like to talk about is using bookmarks to fulfill some specific business requests. For those of you who are not familiar, bookmarks are one of the favorite and most used features in Power BI. Basically, what bookmark does, it captures the current state of the report, so you can use it as a reference in your actions through buttons, images, shapes, whatever. And this will basically give you a possibility to create an app-like experience for your Power BI report and make it look more interactive. And yeah, there are really dozens of use cases where you can apply bookmarking, but here today I will focus on a specific problem in this demo. And I would say it's a frequent problem, and yeah, I assure you that sooner rather than later you will face it during the report designing process. So what's the challenge? We created our nice little Power BI report, everything looks fine. We have our 3-4 slicers on the page, so far so good. But one day our users want to have additional slicer for, let's say, brand category. no problem, I will make existing slicers smaller and secure space for the new one. Then after a month or two, our users want to have one more slicer. Then after another month or two, one more, etc., etc. I think you get the point. So what should we do when we can't accommodate all requested slicers on our report page? Well, first option, most obvious, is to tell our users to choose which slicers are the most important for them and then simply discard others. Just kidding, of course, you shouldn't do that. We can create a separate report page which will contain slicers only, and that's also a legitimate solution. Or we can create a slicer pane which will hold all of our slicers on the existing report page. And we will be able to show or hide this slicer pane depending on the user's choice. If you don't trust me, let's head over to Power BI Desktop and I will show you how it's done. Okay, so you can see here I have two slicers on my report. That's perfectly fine, no problem at all. And now first thing I want to do is turn on bookmarks and selection panes. Whenever you work with bookmarks, you simply need to open these two panes because that way you control what is going on in your report. Okay, so let's multiply this slicer a few times just to get a feeling what's the problem we are facing. Okay, so now we have 6 slicers, not enough space for all of them. I will also expand this rectangle shape and let's move this visual below. Okay, so that's exactly how I want my report to look when the slicer pane is expanded. Next thing I need to do, I will insert icons which will be used as a navigation between the bookmarks. So I already prepared my icons. This is the menu icon. Let's make it a little bit smaller and put it there. And the other one is close window icon, which we will use to close our slicer pane, and we'll want to be small like this. Okay, so basically that's how my report page will look like when the slicer pane is expanded. Therefore, now I'm going to the bookmarks, add, and you might want to turn off data properties so the slicers aren't reset when users switch views by selecting bookmark. I will rename it and give it a meaningful name, slicer pane expanded. Okay. And now I need to set my other bookmark. And how I do this? First thing, I need to hide all of the visuals which I want to exclude from this other bookmark. So all of my slicers will disappear, will be hidden, not disappear, sorry. Okay, so that's how my page will look like when the slicer pane is collapsed. So let's add another bookmark. Again, turn off data. And I will call it slicer pane collapsed. Okay, last thing we need to do is to instruct our buttons what we want from them to perform. So this menu button, I will go to the action property here, turn it on. Then under type, select bookmark, and I will choose my slicer pane expanded bookmark. So now when I click on this menu icon, my slicer pane appears. We'll do the similar thing for this close window icon. Again, turning on action. Again, type bookmark, and now I want slicer pane collapsed. So now when my user clicks on it, it will be collapsed. It works, huh? Cool. Yeah, so as you saw, we pushed filtering experience to a whole new level just by using bookmarks in our report. And your users will appreciate you and love you because you supplied all slicers they wanted, but you also saved space on your report to accommodate more visuals or to give existing ones a little more space. Okay, going back to our presentation. Next thing I want to talk about is using buttons for drilling through. First of all, drill through action is a relatively new feature in Power BI. In March this year, it was announced as a preview feature, and since May 2020, it became generally available. And I really consider this as a huge thing, since I have really a lot of users who are not aware of drill through feature at all. Previously, they needed to right click on the visual, then choose to drill through to a specific page, which was not so intuitive. So I had to create different workarounds. And if you recall our demo for animated tooltips, that was one of the solutions to point user into direction of using the drill through feature. Now, having specific drill through action enabled for our buttons with little decks and with proper formatting, we can dynamically set properties of the buttons and create a really awesome experience for our users. And awesome experience for your users, in most cases, means that your users will love you. So it's show time again. Let's go to Power BI Desktop. First, I will close this selection and bookmarks panes because I don't need them anymore for this demo. Okay, drill through. First thing, I will insert a button, a blank button. And I need to do some formatting because I want to look it a little bit nicer than by default. Button text, let's say, open drill through page. We'll customize it later, don't worry. So for the beginning, that's fine. Let's make it a little bit nicer also regarding coloring. I want to be blue. Okay, and I like when the buttons are a little bit rounded. Okay, so it looks nice now. Okay, so next thing, because I have multiple different drill through pages in my report, and I want to give my users possibility to choose what kind of details they would like to see, I need to create a small table which will hold data about drill through pages. I already created them, as you see, sales amount color, which shows me sales amount broken down by color for a specific brand, and sales amount broken down by specific brand for a specific time period. Okay, everything will be more clear when we finish creating everything. So let's go to enter data again. Now I will call this table drill through pages. Again, I will need two columns, ID and let's say page. ID again, 1 and 2. You don't need to use this ID column. That's just for the purpose if you want to order your pages in different order than alphabetically. So the most important thing is that names of the page within this table must 100% match name of the page for drill through. So my pages are called sales amount color and sales amount brand. Okay, I will load this into a data model. Okay, now I will drag slicer to my report canvas and put drill through pages. I put page here. And under selection controls, I will turn, so here, I will turn on single select. Yeah, so depending on this selection, we want to dynamically adjust text on the button, which will be used for the drill through action. So far, you see that it's still static. It just shows open drill through page. So how can we do this? First, I need to create a measure which will capture this selection. So going to new measure, let's call it selected page. And it equals, it's just a string which will concatenate selected value. So we are using built-in function selected value of the page. Okay, so now we have this measure, and this measure will dynamically change the button text. How it's done? Let me show you. So I'm clicking on button, going to formatting pane, then go to button text, and you see this small FX button there, here. I will click on it, and I will put here format by field value that stays, and under drill through pages, I will choose my selected page measure. Okay, so now as you see, it's open sales amount brand. As soon as I click on sales amount color, it changes to open sales amount color. So far, so good. Next thing we need to do is to instruct our button what to do depending on user selection. So again, I'm clicking on button, going to action property. It's here. I will turn it on, and here under type, you saw that we have bookmarks in previous demo. Here I'm choosing drill through, and as soon as I check this drill through option, my button became grayed out, which means it's disabled. So my user can assume that nothing will happen if he clicks on it. And we need to set the destination. Again, going to this FX button and drill through pages, I will select page. We will leave this summarization first. I will explain why it's completely fine. And okay. Okay, so nothing happened at the moment. I told you that I will explain this summarization first. Why is that fine? Because we defined user selection within the slicers to one value exclusively. So by turning this single select on, and we don't need to worry whatever user selects, this will be the first and the only selection. And one last thing, we need to check this now. So let's say for this table, I have year and month, and I have my default tooltip, and I have a message right click to drill through. As soon as I click on this value, my button became blue. So my user can assume that it's ready for action. And when I click on it, I will be navigated to a drill through page for the June 2009, and I can see numbers broken down by brand. Let's go back and check. So when I go back, by default, my button is again grayed out. Let's check, let's say for October. Again, when I click, my button became blue. And when I click on the button, I see numbers for October. Okay, let's check now for sales amount color. I'll switch here to sales amount color. You can notice that button text also changed. So let's see for brand names, let's say Wide World Importers. If I click on it, my button became blue. I click on the button and I see sales amount by color for my Wide World Importers brand. Going back, let's check for Contoso. Again, I click on it. Button is ready for action. Click on it and I see sales amount broken down by color for my selected brand, which is Contoso in this case. Okay, so as you saw with some basic decks, we were able to dynamically format our button, and with the tweaking button actions, we enabled our users basically to navigate through multiple drill through pages. At the same time, we avoided complexity of creating and maintaining multiple bookmarks for this same purpose. Okay, so we are slowly closing to an end. But before we go to questions, I would also like to show you one more trick with the bookmarks. As I already mentioned, there are literally infinite numbers of use cases for bookmarks, and it's more than obvious in some situations where out-of-the-box solutions are not enough. So here, the challenge is working with card visuals. By default, card visuals are static. They are displaying some data value, and that's it. But what if I tell you that we can make them dynamic? And even more with some little tweaking, again, taking advantage of using bookmarks, we can transform them to regular visuals and use them for cross-filtering. So last show time of the session just starts. Okay, so instead starting from the scratch here in this example and explaining every single step in details, I will walk you through this demo in the opposite way. So from the end to beginning. So here is our final solution with all required functionalities in place. And if I click on this plus sign, I will see that my card expands and show me additional visual which displays sales quantity by year and month. Same works for sales amount. And if I click on this big plus sign in the middle, I will see both additional visuals displayed at the same time. Okay, so let me now show you how I build this. Going here, and again, when working with bookmarks, don't forget, turn on bookmarks and selection pane. That's the first thing you want to do. So let's show all the items on my report. And now, yes, I already prepared bookmarks because it will require much time to go everything from scratch. So basically what we need to do is just playing around and hide and show specific visuals on the report to achieve what you just saw in the previous example. So for this sales quantity card, I want to show plus all. I want to hide all rectangles. So just hiding, you just need to hide specific visuals, and that's the whole story. So here it stays. Okay, so plus quantity needs to be hidden. That's how my quantity expanded bookmark will look like. So I will go here and update it. Let's do this now for the similar thing for sales amount bookmark. Now I need to switch between plus and minus here. I'll need to switch between plus and minus here. And I need to show sales amount. Not this one, sorry. This one. Okay, so this is how the report will look like when my user clicks on to expand sales amount. And final, so yeah, I need to sales expanded to update it, okay, to preserve the state of this bookmark. And finally, for this big plus sign in the middle, let's switch those two. So I need all rectangle, not quantity rectangle, and plus quantity and sales. It's of key importance to properly name your items in the report, so you can you know what to hide and what to show. It will save you time and effort, believe me. So now this is sales and quantity expanded. And now we need to define actions for those buttons. So for this plus sign, I want to show quantity expanded. For this plus sign, I want to show sales expanded. This is minus, so this one goes back to quantity and sales collapsed. And the plus all, let me define for it. So this one will show me quantity and sales expanded. Okay. Now let's check if everything works fine. So I will close this now. Okay, clicking on sales quantity plus sign, I see sales quantity by year and month. That's fine. Do same for sales amount. I see sales amount by year and month. And here I'm collapsing it. And clicking on this main plus sign, I see both of them. So everything works perfect. Okay, so as we saw in one of the previous demos also, you can also give your users more insight by using tooltip pages, and that's also a legitimate solution. But tooltip pages are static and you cannot interact with them. Here we have shown how clever usage of bookmarks can transform static card visual to a dynamic visual. And even more, these extended visuals, which you see here, can be used like regular ones for cross-filtering. So for example, if I click on January here, my underlying data will also be filtered to reflect those selection. Yeah, so I consider this as the greatest advantage of this trick. Again, going back here and want to emphasize, be careful with usage. Don't create yourself an overhead instead of functionality. Keep that in mind. So try to find the right balance. Okay, guys, so I'm looking forward to hearing your questions. Just to say that in case there is not enough time to answer all of them, I will collect all of the questions and post answers on my blog, or I will find a way to get back to you with the answers. Chris?
Okay, well, we have several questions, so I've done a little bit of triage for the ones that focus
Thanks for that.
specifically on your demos, and I'll pass the rest along. So I think going back to the fifth demo, Lemore wanted to know which of those graphs would you recommend using to display for a particular product? Would you use change in its status over time?
Sorry, didn't hear the question, the whole question. What visuals do I recommend?
I think on that, and Lemore, please type in the chat if you can clarify any more. But it was looking to display for a particular product in your scenario. Which graph type would you recommend using on which variables?
Yeah, it depends. It depends on the business needs. It
Okay.
depends on the business needs. So basically, you should combine. If you want to show something changes over time, you can use, for example, line chart. If you want to compare values, you can use cluster column chart. So yeah, it really depends on the business need for specific case.
Okay, great. And now that we're on the questions, before we get to the next one, I do just want to jump in and say, please evaluate Nikola on what he's done today. There's a link for that in the chat. I just wanted to get those in really quick. And Inta had another question on number 5. Is there a way to show the actual active filters as a result of the slicer choices?
Yes. There is an option for this. You can use, but you need to create a specific measure which will capture the selection from the slicers, and then to format it like a string and place somewhere in the report. You can use selected value function and then combining with concatenate X, also DEX function to achieve this. But it's possible, yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so now we're kind of on to the more generic questions. This is another one from Lemore. She wanted to know, is there a way to create a template for all our pages that include the logo?
Exactly. There is an option when you are saving a Power BI file. There is an option to choose between a regular PBIX file and PBIT file, which is a Power BI template file. Basically, what this template file does, it stores metadata. So it creates like a structure for you. So you can just open it and continue to build where you left previously. So just a moment, I will show this. So when I click on File, Save As, I have an option here, just Power BI file PBIX, and I have Power BI template files PBIT. So you can save it as a template and then just continue next time to work on it.
Okay.
Hope this helps.
Okay, so Sam has been waiting patiently for this one. He says he needs desperate help on a tip for page size and removing white space at the bottom. So he's asking, can you give us a tip how to get rid of the default white space at the bottom of each report? They post in PBI service, the report page is a live page, there's a big white space on the visual, and is there a setting where he can get rid of that so there's not a huge gap separating the live pages?
To be honest, I haven't used this in my practice, so I don't want to give maybe wrong answer. I can say for Power BI desktop file how to remove white spaces, but for live pages in Power BI service, I'm afraid I can't help at this moment. Maybe I can try to find something and investigate a little bit more.
Okay, great. So I think got one last question that we've got time for. Another one from Lee Moore. She wanted to know, how can she calculate the average number of cases dynamically by month or year? And this may have been referring to number 5, but it may have been more generic as well.
Yeah, it's more generic. Well, it's been done by using DAX, so I think it will it will require maybe 10 or 15 minutes to go to a specific case and explain regarding how to use DAX measures in specific context, and one needs to understand the context transition and how to discard some filters, how to preserve filters, how to keep them. So I think it's a complex question to be answered in 30 seconds or 1 minute.
Okay, no,
but it's been done. It's been done by DAX measures.
Perfect. And I know I haven't had enough coffee this early in Albuquerque time to see 15 minutes of DAX. That's for sure.
Okay.
So that was a great job, Nikola. I think that is it.
Okay, one last more thing from me. So before I wish you a nice day, evening, or good night, again, depending on from which part of the planet you are watching, I would like to thank all of you for attending this session. Hope that you enjoyed it and maybe learned something interesting and new, or even better, got some fresh ideas to implement in your own Power BI reports. As Chris said, feel free to share your thoughts on the session, and I would really appreciate your feedback. So until next time, stay safe and enjoy the rest of the conference.